Okay, so sometimes you do one of those DNA tests and you're like, all right, let's see, am I going to find out I'm like secretly a Romanoff or something?
Right, haha, everyone's got that little bit of family lore they're hoping to
Right.
uncover.
Totally. But have you ever thought about the idea that those results could like seriously turn your whole world upside down?
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to approach those tests with a sense of fun, a lighthearted curiosity, but the reality is those results can unearth some heavy truths.
And that is exactly what happened to Pam, the woman whose story we're diving into today. She's one of those people who discovered later in life that, well, let's just say her parents weren't exactly who she thought they were.
It's a really interesting case that speaks to a larger phenomenon, actually, what's known as NPE, not parent expected. Essentially, it's when someone discovers, often through DNA testing, that one or both of their parents aren't biologically related to them.
And Pam's story, yeah, let me tell you, it's a wild ride. So picture this. Pam gets her ancestry results back, and she sees this unexpected Eastern European heritage, which is kind of cool, right? But then she's joking with her husband, like, hey, must gotten your genes all mixed up in mine this morning because, get this, it matched his background.
So just a funny coincidence at first glance.
Exactly, except not really. So she retakes the test, just to be sure. And those Eastern European genes, still there. And that's when things take a serious turn because she starts looking at her DNA matches. And her brother, the guy she grew up with, sharing a childhood with, he shows up as a first cousin.
Wow. That's when those seemingly insignificant numbers the centimorgans used in DNA comparisons suddenly become incredibly significant. You see, we share more centimorgans, or CM, with a sibling than we do a cousin. So when the numbers don't align with the family structure you've always known, it's a massive red flag.
Huge red flag. Pam described it as the floor just dropping out from under her. And I can only imagine, right? This wasn't just an, oh, interesting moment. This was a full-blown, my world just tilted on its axis moment. So Pam, being the amazing woman she is, dives headfirst into her own investigation. We're talking 16 months, folks, poring over records, following every lead, even deciphering misspelled Ukrainian names.
That's a level of dedication that speaks to the very core of this experience, I think. This deep-seated need to uncover the truth, to reconcile your understanding of yourself with this newly revealed reality.
Totally. And for Pam, that truth was, well, let's just say, a lot more complicated than she could have ever anticipated. Because it turned out her biological father wasn't who she'd always believed it to be. This wasn't just a missing branch on the family tree. Pam was the product of an affair. And as if grappling with that massive identity shift wasn't enough, she quickly realized something else this specific experience. Being a child of an affair, people just don't talk about it.
It's true. It's often treated as this taboo subject shrouded in secrecy and shame, and that's silence. It only further isolates individuals like Pam.
And it prevents open and honest conversations about something that's honestly probably a lot more common than we think.
Exactly. And that's what makes Pam's decision to share her story all the more powerful. It's a direct challenge to that silence.
It really is. And you know what's even crazier? When Pam first started trying to find information online, like resources, support groups, whatever, a lot of the advice she found was basically telling her to stay silent. Like, don't tell your bio dad, don't tell your husband, just pretend this never happened.
Wow. In this day and age, can you imagine being told to just bury a truth that profound?
Right. It just goes to show how much our society still struggles with anything that falls outside those traditional family structures.
Absolutely. And for someone like Pam, who's already grappling with this massive shift in her identity, being told to stay silent just adds another layer of complexity to an already emotionally charged situation.
But Pam, she's not about that whole sweep it under the rug mentality. She felt this pull to connect with her biological father, this missing piece of herself.
It's a natural human instinct, I think, to want to understand where we come from, to fill in those gaps in our personal narratives.
Totally. And after months of research, she finally found him, or at least his family. Now you'd think at this point, finally some answers, right? Maybe even some peace.
It's that hope for resolution, for understanding, that drives so many of these searches.
Exactly. So Pam decides to reach out to her biological father's family. She writes them this heartfelt letter.
And it's in these moments, when the search for information collides with that very human need for connection, that the emotional stakes of these discoveries become so real.
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't like she just rushed into it either. Remember how she spent 16 months piecing together her story? Well, it turns out only 4 months into that, she had a name, a possible link to her biological father. But without DNA confirmation, she hesitated.
It's a lot to process, that potential rejection.
Right. It was actually her sister who kind of gave her that final push, like, just go for it, see what happens.
It's interesting how these discoveries can impact family dynamics in different ways.
For sure. But anyway, back to the letter. Pam, she wanted to be sensitive, you know? She knew this could be a lot for them to take in.
She actually worked with an NPE support group and even her therapist to help her craft that letter, which just goes to show how much weight these situations carry.
Totally. This wasn't just a casual, hey, how you doing kind of thing. This was deep, emotional. She read me parts of it. She apologized for any disruption this might cause, explained how she'd only recently discovered the truth herself. She even talked about needing family medical history because without it, she was basically going in blind for every health scare.
It highlights a really crucial aspect of these situations. Medical history is so intertwined with family history.
Right. And imagine like having mammograms and not knowing your family history. It's scary. But amidst all of that heavy stuff, she also included these like simple questions, almost heartbreaking in their simplicity. Like, what were his hobbies? What kind of books did he enjoy? Just this yearning to connect with this man who was, biologically speaking, half of her, but a complete stranger.
It's about more than just genetics, isn't it? It's about understanding who you are, where you come from, on a fundamental human level.
And the thing is, Pam's biological family's response to all of that, to her vulnerability, her honesty, silence, a cold, hard, we don't believe you, don't contact us again.
It's a devastating blow, and it speaks to the complexities of family secrets, societal expectations, all of it.
It's easy to judge, right? But everyone processes these things differently. What might seem like a simple DNA test to some can completely unravel the fabric of a family. And for Pam, this rejection, it felt even more profound because of something else that had happened in her family. A few years earlier, her family had welcomed a long-lost uncle with open arms. He was also a product of a family secret. But there he was, embraced, accepted, loved.
And that contrast, that difference in reaction, it highlights this often unspoken hierarchy within families.
It's like some secrets are more acceptable than others.
Exactly. And for MPEs like Pam, who are already grappling with this shifts in their identity, that kind of rejection from their biological family, it can be incredibly isolating.
Like being told, you're family, but not quite.
It's crucial to validate Pam's feelings of anger, disappointment, even embarrassment. These are all natural human responses to a very complex, very emotionally charged situation.
You know, when you hear stories like Pam's monk, it really gets you thinking about like what actually makes a family, you know?
It's true. It
Yeah.
really challenges those traditional notions of what family is supposed to be, doesn't it?
Yeah. And the thing that really struck me was even after all of that, after facing that wall of silence from her biological family, Pam didn't let it break her.
Resilience is a common thread you see in a lot of NPE stories.
Absolutely. And that's what makes her story even more incredible because she took this experience, this pain, and turned it into something so powerful.
Finding your voice, sharing your story can be incredibly empowering.
Seriously. I mean, she could have just retreated, kept it all inside, you know? But instead, she's out there creating this platform for other people to share their stories, to connect.
And that's what's so important, creating that space for open and honest conversations.
It's amazing. And you know, it gets me. Throughout all of this, even when she talks about the rejection from her biological family, Pam still has this like incredible empathy for them.
It speaks volumes about her character, doesn't it?
Totally. She's not holding on to anger or resentment. She's trying to understand where they're coming from, their fears, their own struggles.
That capacity for compassion, even in the face of such a personal rejection, it's really remarkable.
And I think that's what makes Pam's story resonate with so many people. It makes you wonder how many others are out there going through similar experiences, feeling alone, feeling silenced.
It's a question we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
And maybe Pam's story, her willingness to be so open and vulnerable, can serve as an invitation for us all to be more empathetic, more understanding, to challenge our own assumptions about what family means.
Beautifully said. And, you know, at the end of the day, Pam's search for her biological father might be over, but her journey, the journey of countless others like her, it's ongoing. And they deserve support. They deserve to be heard. They deserve to know they're not alone.
Couldn't agree more.
So if you're out there and this deep dive resonated with you, and I have a feeling it did, check out Pam's podcast, NPE Child of an Affair. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes it's those messy, complicated, deeply personal stories that truly connect us as human beings.